Really, the process starts like in a couple days. I'll go out to my patch there and take all the old vines out. Every piece of pumpkin vine that I can see and get out of there, I get out of there. And then I'll spray it all heavy with Roundup, kill all the weeds. And then, you know, wait about a week or so, and I'll hit it with a disc and sow it with rye, and then sprinkle a few bales of straw over the top of that. And might spray a little molasses on the ground then too, or a little humate. Get a soil test, see if we need to add any amendments right then and there. And then you just watch the rye grow and wait for the snow to come. And then in the winter time, one of the things I do, I heat my house with a lot of wood, burn a lot of wood. So I probably gets a bushel of fireplace ashes a week out there. Just spread it around different spots all winter long. And usually in the middle of winter, I'll go get maybe 10 yards of manure and spread out on it when the ground's good and frozen. Yeah, it's aged manure. It's pretty well ready to go. And I might add some leaf compost too at the same time. You know, maybe twice throughout the winter when we get a thaw, I'll spray some molasses, and then when spring comes, I'll hit it with hopefully the rye is about 10-12 inches tall or so, and I'll cut it up with the disc. I really don't rototill that much. You know, this year I did rototill twice. The disc I had such a good crop of rye. After I cut it with the rototiller. And then after you plant the pumpkins out in the garden, kind of anti-tilling. I do till a little bit. A lot of guys till a lot more than me, but I do think that once you get your soil good and right, stay away from that tilling as much as you can. But you got to get some air in the soil. And to break up the amendments you add in. Another thing I do is I subsoil the garden really good with a subsoiler on my tractor. Just bust the pan up, we call it, so that they get more moisture and nutrients down into the root system. So then once you start to seed, I start them inside about April 27th, 28th, sometime in there. I have a little hot box that I make with it's no more than a plywood box with a trouble light. Keep them about 85 degrees. In a couple days they pop up, 2 to 3 days they start. And then you put them underneath a fluorescent light. Keep the fluorescent light right down on the pumpkin plant, because that keeps them short and stocky. You don't want them getting long and taller. They bend over and break. It keeps them beefy. And so they're inside for about a week. And then I put up each pumpkin has its own little greenhouse, about 4 foot by 6 foot. And I put that up, you know. They'll go out in one main one usually for a few days before I plant them in the ground. I'll have a heater in there, try and keep it around 60 just to get them acclimated. So once you plant them, I do have 6 individual greenhouses, and I do put a light bulb in each one, but this spring happened to be so warm maybe 1 or 2 nights I turned a light bulb on. We had a nice spring, lots of rain, so we didn't. But that's key to keeping that soil warm and getting them a good early start. Well, if you just let the pumpkin plant grow, it'll go every different direction. The wind will blow it, it'll turn, it'll twist, and you'll just have a gnarly mess of vines everywhere. So what we do, we train it. There's a main vine. It's your actual, when the pumpkin starts to grow up and then it lays down, you plant it in the proper direction you want it to grow. Like the first true leaf that comes up, the vine usually will go the opposite direction of the first true leaf. So you plant it, when you plant it in the ground, you wait till you see that first true leaf, and then you know to plant it so that it'll go in the direction you hope it will. Now, not always it does, but most of the time it does. So then as you train it, I have coat hangers. You get them at the dollar store, regular clothes hangers, and you cut them in half. You have 2 then, and you just fork it down on the ground. And you know, every couple foot, as the pumpkin is growing, you move it. Like only use like a half a dozen or so per plant. You use the coat hanger, and then when you move the coat hanger out 2 foot, and then you bury the vine back there where it was. And that way, when the wind comes along, it won't whip it all over the place. So that's your main vine. And then you have secondaries that shoot off of there. And the same way, they'll go every which way, but if you train them so that you get a proper distance in between them so that you can get in there and get the weeds out, or you can water. Every spot's getting good, even water, then it's getting able to absorb it. It's just, so you end up with what we call, at one point it looks like a Christmas tree. I used the Christmas tree pattern because the main grows out there, say it's out there 10 foot, and this side vine's out there 10 foot, and then the next side vine's out 8 foot, and then 6 foot, and then 4 foot. It'll actually look just like a Christmas tree. So they go outside about, Mother's Day weekend's a good time I put them out. This year I was a few days later, it was so wet. They stayed in the pots longer, but we like to have them on by the 1st of July. You want to have your pumpkins growing by the 1st of July. So you have a male and a female flower that grows on them. The female is the pumpkin. And you want it at least 10, 12, 15 foot out from where you planted it. So you're looking for that perfect fruit, the one that you think is going to be your perfect fruit. So then you pollinate it with, like these 2 pumpkins are cross-pollinated. I took a male flower from this one to pollinate that one, and vice versa with these 2. Well, you put the drip tape down now after the pumpkin gets growing. Once I take the greenhouses off is when the drip tape goes down. Probably about pollination time I had like my drip tape all out. I did my drip tapes like in 3 different stages. Like I had the mains running, and then I had a few secondaries, and I added a few more, and I added a few more, because you don't need to dump all the water. There's no sense in watering all the dirt when you don't have the plant growing there yet. So I do it, like when I get time, I add 6 or 8, and then add a few more, and add a few more until I kind of add the drip tape as the plant's growing. Because when they're really young, I water very, very little. It's something I've noticed I'm having better luck with. I really don't do much watering other than with a can until once you start to grow pumpkin. Once you get it basketball size and beyond, then it's time to put the water to it. And you can put, I have 6 pumpkins with the 600-gallon tanks, or 2 300-gallon tanks. I add the 600 gallons, and some days I'll dump all 600 gallons on the garden. Most of the time, probably 2/3 of it, probably 400 gallons a day. I have timers on it, so it waters like 2 to 3 times a day. No overhead watering. It's all through the drip tape, and that just seems to be helping out with the disease and powdery mildew, and it just keeps the plants seem to be healthier, and you get a much evener water. One of the things we do once the pumpkin gets going, about basketball size or so, we put a bunch of sand underneath it. Just some good old play sand, mason sand, something with no rocks in it. Finding out that I've had a lot of pumpkins crack in the past, and I've tried styrofoam, plywood, different stuff to, I'm just finding out the sand, as they're growing, they grow so fast and expand it, they just sort of slide across the sand or push the sand. You can actually see it pushing the sand out. And you get a nice, like these have flat bottoms and no buckles underneath. Because I believe sometimes when they buckle underneath, you create a dill ring, and then you'll get a crack in the side or the top of the pumpkin. So the sand is something that seems to be huge that we've been doing. Well, I just have a 4-foot fence. Seems to work pretty good. I think there's a lot of deer around here. I have had trouble with the rabbits. They don't seem to eat much, maybe a flower here or there, but they want to burrow down underneath there and make nests and everything. But for the most part, I don't have a lot of animal problem. The woodchuck population around here is, I keep that under control. We did find a mole hole, or appeared to be a mole, underneath one pumpkin, and yeah, And you never know. I've heard stories of mice actually chewing holes up through the bottom of a pumpkin, and then it's no good if a pumpkin has a hole through it. So, but this one didn't appear to have no issues underneath it, so we're good there. And I'm pretty secluded here. I have pine trees pretty much all the way around it for wind. Because wind is huge. It just wears out the plants. I mean, if you plant in a wide open area, like some friends of mine do, you just can go over there and see how much healthier my plants are than theirs, because they just get beat up with the wind. So I also put silt fence in between each plant to keep a little wind off, and next year I might even double the silt fence up a little higher to keep a little more wind off, because wind is huge to me in keeping that plant healthy. I don't claim to have no big secret other than you can't go out in the garden once a week and grow one of these. You're out there every day. And if you miss a day, you lose sleep over it because you didn't do your job. It's like you didn't go to work that day. It's like you played hooky or something. And you gotta, I mean, I got weeds in the garden right now, but you're out there getting every weed you can. And then the pruning, I explained the main vine and the secondaries, but then you have tertiaries that grow off of that, which you don't want. So you prune them all off. Now you try to get out there every day and you just pick them off with your thumbnail. And then you'll miss one. It'll be up in the plant and you gotta crawl up in the plant and get it off. So it's, you know, you gotta be out there all the time. And then the bug control. Bugs are your worst enemy as far as I'm concerned. I don't claim to be no expert on disease, but it seems like bugs give you the diseases and they transmit it or whatever. And I spray. One of the things I did different this year is I sprayed just general fungicide once a week with seaweed mixed in with it, just a daconol, or just once a week. I just did that, help keep the plants healthier. I do use the mycorrhizae products. I think they're great. I mean, ever since I've brought that on, my weights have been going up and up and up. I grow bigger pumpkins every year. I seem to use more and more of that every year. It's not cheap, but it does work. Well, we were sweating a little bit today, lifting things up with that tripod. The tripod was new to me last year because they finally got too big. I couldn't lift them with my tractor in a bucket no more. So we set up a tripod. I thought it was the slickest thing last year. This year, sinking down in the soil because the soil's so light, and just worried about them. But that's what we do. We set up a tripod with our standard lifting ring that's been around forever, and a chain fall that I bring home from my work and lift them up and back to trail underneath them. It works pretty good, but you're just so worried about something going wrong or dropping one of these big boys, and after you worked on it all summer long. My biggest secret would be soil preparation. I put a lot of amendments into the soil, and it's all due to the soil test and figuring out what you need in your soil. I put in a lot of kelp meal, alfalfa meal, cottonseed meal. Them are all just good organic amendments, and then I even add them as the plant's growing, as it's starting. I call it spider out. I add it 3 or 4 times throughout the year. Like I put some in the spring, and then I might put some more in right before they come out of the greenhouse, and then I'll, just add it as it's growing. The soil test, you want maximum. I shoot for maximum levels of everything. So you need your pH just right. Roughly about 7.0 is where I'm running. It's slightly high, but seems to be working good. But you always fight that. Your pH seems to always want to go up in this part of the country, so you're always trying to lower that a little bit. You add a little soil sulfur to get that to come down. The biggest one here is taping around 1700. Now, right now, the world record is 1725. So if we could very well surpass the world record with this. I'll throw a wet sheet on this tonight. And the vines, we actually do take Ziploc baggie, and we'll fill it up with water and stick the vines right in some. It's not to have them gain weight, it's just maybe so they don't lose any, won't start to dry out, you know, because they will dry out in the past. I think it was about a pound a day that they'll dry out, because I don't know about this size, but I remember one time I had a 900 pounder, and a week later, you know, it weighed like 10 pounds lighter. I'm just going for bragging rights. Let me just go, let it, yeah, it is what it is what they say, you know. We'll go get them weighed. Every year, shouldn't say every year, but almost every year the world record and the state record gets broke. We're just getting smarter at this, and everybody shares. It's, no big secrets here. You do it, and everybody's got their own little techniques, and you know, some guys use different stuff than I do, and you know, it's all what you think works. And different soil, different areas, they have different issues, so everybody does things a little different. Well, this seed is out of Bill Rodonius is 1161, which has grown a lot of big pumpkins. And the other one up there is out of one of my seeds, out of a 1303 that I grew last year. So that when you grow it, now whatever this weighs, and I'll extract the seeds, it'll be called whatever sweet, you know, whatever weight this is, sweet. That'll be the seed name. The number is the weight, and the name is the grower. And we trade seeds. One thing that you do so that you can grow a big pumpkin, or I do, or a lot of, we call them a proven seed. Now this seed has been around for a few years. It has grown several big pumpkins. I don't know exactly what. I think a couple 1,500 pounders, some 14s. I had my 1303 was out of the same seed last year. Now these are just Atlantic Giants is the variety. There's really only, you know, one of them. Big pumpkin, you know, the right person wants it, you can get like $1 a pound for it. I joked with someone, Don said he was going to get me $1,000 for a pumpkin, and my uncle was there, and he was like, "Oh my God, you get $1,000 for a pumpkin?" I go, "Yeah, it's about $1 an hour." I figured, because I probably got 1,000 hours in them. And so it's kind of, yeah. But it's a hobby. It's what you like to do. Better than sitting in the house. Well, actually, I tell my wife I could be at the bar or the golf course, so better off home in the garden, I guess, because you do put a lot of time in it. But it's I won't call it a bad hobby. It's a hobby. It's a fun hobby, good hobby, and I know I enjoy it, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Just the thrill of watching them grow. They grow so fast, so big. It's just amazing.